Hey everybody, welcome back to Formula Relapse. Thanks for joining us just after this spicy qualifying sesh that just happened in Zandvoort, which is the first time we've been back at this track since 1985. It was an interesting qualifying because we had a lot of upsets, we had a lot of predictables, we had a lot of spiciness go around. And when I say spiciness, I mean a lot of red flags. There was red flags all weekend, all through free practices, all through qualifying. We had plenty of red flags. Just recently read an article about Toto Wolff pleading with the FIA, asking them to rethink some of the red flag strategy. If you watch the weekend, you'll know that there was, I think, red flags in every single session this weekend, and so there was a lot of lost time. I know a lot of drivers didn't get as much seat time getting familiar with this track, getting to learn their cars a little more because of this, and so we're really coming into the weekend with a bunch of racers that maybe aren't as comfortable as they should be with the track. Topping pole position, we've got Max Verstappen alongside Lewis Hamilton. I think he was just under a hundredth of a second behind him, and so it was really exciting to see it live because we had Lewis kind of complete, or I mean, we had Max complete his lap. The Dutch fans were roaring. Bottas is coming in, completing his flying lap. Can he do better? The answer is no. And then comes in Lewis Hamilton going around the final corner, improving on various sectors, but can he top pole position? And he missed out just by a hundredth of a second. And so it was really crazy to see that. The fans just absolutely lost it. It was absolutely wild. It was really cool to see that sea of orange. I can't believe Max Verstappen has that many fans, but obviously for the home race, it makes a lot of sense. And so it was a really awesome top three positions there. Kudos to Max, Lewis, and Bottas for topping it on such a difficult track. Now, let's get on to the boohoos of the weekend, right? George Russell somehow was pushing the limits of the Williams and he crashed out in qualifying two. But I think because he was able to kind of get out of the gravel, crawl back into the pits, I think he was able to keep his fast lap time. And because he kept his fast lap time, he actually ended up topping out on Q2. And so he finished in 11th place, which was incredibly impressive for not even getting technically your fast lap in. And so I think we definitely could have. It was disappointing in the sense that we definitely could have seen a really strong qualifying three position, maybe. But regardless, kudos for him for finishing P11. Lance Stroll and Norris were extremely unimpressive all weekend, finishing P12 and P13, respectively. Nicholas also had a crash right after Russell, so the red flag came out for Russell, and it came back in for. Actually, I don't believe Russell got a red flag, but right after that crash with Russell, Latifi just decided to kind of throw his car off the ledge as well. And so, again, not so impressive from Latifi in P14. Yuki Tsunoda tops the rookies in P15. I think this really shows that he's kind of maybe gaining his foot a little bit. This is a very difficult track. I did not expect the rookies to do very well in it. Would I wish that he have done better? Of course, but he's constantly been knocked out in Q3, and so for him to make it into Q2, I think that in itself was pretty good, but unfortunately he just didn't have it in him this time to get a little further up. Perez and Vettel both suffered from some traffic issues that caused them not to necessarily get their flying laps in. Perez, I think they took him out a little late, and then he also had some pit lane traffic, and so that led to him getting wiped out in Q3. Vettel was doing his flying lap. I think he was doing a pretty good time, at least enough to get into Q2, but he had both Haas's blocking his way. I don't believe it was the last corner, but it was one of the last few corners. Devastating for both of those drivers to be taken out like that. Some of the winners of the weekend have been Ferrari and Alpine. They have looked really strong all weekend, and Ferrari placed really high. Alpine placed together. I think that's what teams really want to see. They want to see both drivers placing very consistently amongst each other. And so I think when you do see two teams close together like that, one right after the other, I think what that says is they're pushing those limits of the car, and now this is kind of driver versus driver. But awesome weekend for Ferrari, starting in the midfield and as well as Alpine. I'm super excited for the race ahead. We just recently saw the 1985 race that happened here, and one of the things that I noticed was that it was very common for people to get lapped. And so on such a short track, it's going to be interesting to see how the traffic plays into the race tactics, strategy, behavior. Is there going to be someone like Mazepin, Mick Schumacher, someone like Sonoda maybe getting in the way when they shouldn't be and kind of ruin someone else's pace? It'll be really interesting to see what plays out ahead with that. And since we had red flags during every session, I don't doubt that we're going to get a red flag during the race. Hopefully, it's nothing too critical for the drivers, but I think the red flags will kind of throw in a mixed bag of things because, I think it's safe to say that it's going to happen. It's just going to be a matter of when. And so I'd be very surprised if we complete the race tomorrow with actually no red flags. I definitely see a lot of the drivers during this race. They're going to be fighting for those positions. And so I think we're going to see quite a bit of overtaking in the sense that we've got a pretty balanced grid. A lot of teammates are together. It should account for a pretty interesting race. And so we'll just have to see how all of this plays out. But hopefully, with a track like this, everyone's talking about it and saying it's a classic track. Hopefully, as a spectator, it's a really fun time because, Lord knows after Spa, after 4 hours of sitting there and watching the rain and the safety car go around, we need a pretty exciting race. So hopefully we can get some good racing in and hopefully no one takes each other out because that's what I want to see. That's what we want to see as spectators. We want to see a good, clean race and we want to see, the world champions going right at it, whether that's in the back of the grid, the middle of the grid, or the top of the grid. We want to see those battles get intense. And I think a track like this is going to open up the opportunity. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see y'all when we do our post race assessment and hopefully, like I said, we get a really exciting race.